Hey guys, today we're going to be learning about campaign contributions and costs. You should have your campaign contributions and cost note sheet in front of you so you can fill this in as we go. How much money do candidates spend on campaigns? Well, we've already done our web quest. You guys know it is a lot of money. So let's fill in our note sheet that running for political office is expensive. And because it is expensive, there are these effects of rising campaign costs. The first effect of rising campaign costs is that it requires candidates to conduct extensive fundraising activities. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because even when in office, candidates are spending a lot of time going to fundraising events, hosting speeches and golf tournaments and dinners and all kinds of things, going to visit people who they're hoping to donate money to their campaign, instead of spending time actually ruling our country and doing their jobs and doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. So that can be a big problem. Another effect of rising campaign costs is that it limits opportunities to run for public office due to lack of funds. In fact, the number one reason that people choose not to run or drop out of running is because they just simply run out of money. Another effect of rising campaign costs is that it gives an advantage to wealthy individuals that run for office. People can spend as much money as they want to on their own campaigns, and one big example is Ross Perot, that in 1988 he spent $63 million of his own money on his campaign, and he doesn't have to disclose that anywhere. There's no limit to that. And that decision came out of the Supreme Court case Buckley versus Valeo in 1976. And the Supreme Court ruled at that time that spending money to finance campaigns is a form of constitutionally protected free speech through the First Amendment. So candidates can spend an unlimited amount of their own money to finance their own campaigns. This is the first time that it came out that our courts were interpreting money to equal speech. And we are the only nation in the world that has interpreted free speech that way. Because if you think about it, that means that wealthy people have more speech than less wealthy people, and it doesn't quite make sense. But since 1976 in our country, they have said that money equals speech. Do you agree with that decision? Pause the video and write down what you need to write down. Another effect of rising campaign costs is that it encourages the development of PACs, or political action committees, and we've been looking at that a little bit in the web quest and some videos that we have seen. So you know that a political action committee is an officially registered fundraising organization that represents interests and groups in the political process. And another way to put that is a political organization that can be established by a corporation, it can be established by a labor union, or other special interest group designed to support candidates by contributing money. PACs are developed to help like-minded individuals pool their money for campaigns. In an ideal world, people who are for a certain cause would go and look for somebody else who supports that cause and then donate the money to them. So for instance, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they might be looking for a candidate that takes a strong stance against drunk driving, and then they would donate money to that person. Unfortunately, sometimes it goes the other way around, that maybe the person doesn't have a stance on drunk driving and then comes out strongly against it because they're taking the money, and that certainly looks like corruption, even if it's not intended that way. And a super PAC is a political committee whose primary purpose is to influence elections, and when they can take unlimited amounts of money from people, unions, and corporations, pool it all together, and spend it to advocate for a candidate as long as they are independent and not coordinated with the candidate. So PACs, they have a limit, it's $5,000, but super PACs have unlimited amounts of money, but they can't coordinate with the candidate. Another effect of rising campaign costs is that it gives issue-oriented special interest groups increased influence. So what are interest groups? They're organizations of people sharing a common interest or goal that seek to influence government policy and elections. And it can be anything. It can be for the protection of animals. It can be against smoking in public areas. It could be oil corporations or plumbers unions. It can be anything where they have an interest in laws going a certain way and they organize together to get their voice heard. The role of interest groups in the political process is that they inform the public about issues and the candidates. They do grassroots organizing. In other words, they go door to door. They talk to people on the street. They go to shopping malls and festivals and talk to people about their issue and their candidates. They recruit and endorse candidates, and they can form political action committees and contribute money to campaigns. They also sponsor issue ads. So in other words, they wouldn't have a commercial just for the candidate, but they can have an ad about their issue and then say this candidate supports it or this other candidate does not support it. So who works for these groups? Lobbyists. This is an important vocabulary term for you to know, that a lobbyist is a representative in an interest group who can contact lawmakers or other government officials directly. They do research on issues. They inform people about how a bill or law would affect their district. Maybe it'll create jobs, take jobs away, that kind of thing. And the term lobbyist was first used in the 1830s to describe people who waited in the lobbies of state houses to ask politicians for favors. So it used to be literally they would wait just right inside the door of the building and be like, hey, Senator, hey, Congressman, listen to me. You should vote for this bill or vote against this bill. It's going to be bad for our district. Campaign finance reform, this means, because of the rising campaign costs and the appearance of corruption, that there have been a need for change or for reform. So rising campaign costs have led to efforts to reform campaign finance laws. One of the important, famous ones is the McCain-Feingold bill, and this prohibited corporations and unions from funding electioneering communications within 30 days. In other words, you couldn't broadcast ads mentioning a candidate within 30 days of an election. Limits exist on the amounts of money individuals may contribute to political candidates and campaign ads. So there have been strict laws. I believe currently that individuals can only contribute $2,700 to a candidate, although most individuals give much less than that. So candidates must conduct extensive fundraising activities. People with a lot of money are more likely to be able to run for office. There are limited opportunities to run for office due to lack of funds, and political action committees are developed to help people with similar beliefs pool their money together and help candidates with the same beliefs as them win. There's been a famous court case called Citizens United. Some of the background on this is that the conservative nonprofit group produced Hillary the movie. It was very anti-Hillary Clinton. They purchased airtime on cable TV during the 2008 election. At the time, the FEC, or the Federal Election Committee, deemed the movie electioneering communication in violation of the current law. It went to the Supreme Court in the case Citizens United versus FEC, and the Supreme Court decision was that political spending is protected under the First Amendment. The government may not keep corporations or unions from spending money to support or denounce individual candidates in elections. It upheld bans on direct contributions to candidates. So the consequences of that is that it opened the floodgates for advocacy spending in campaigns and disclosure and transparency issues. So now it's a lot harder to find out who is contributing money to particular candidates, and it paves the way for super PACs. The super PACs may raise and spend unlimited sums of money in order to advocate for or against political candidates. Super PACs are prohibited from donating money directly to political candidates, but they have unlimited amounts of money that they can make ads and things like that. We looked at Stephen Colbert's super PAC, and we will not look at this right this second, but the comedian who started a super PAC in order to draw attention to the issue. The decision about Citizens United was very unpopular amongst Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Conservatives. Nobody liked this decision. The impact of super PACs in the 2012 election was that over $1.3 billion was spent by 629 outside groups. Only 32% of the money spent yielded an unintended result. So what do you think? Are corporations people? Should money equal speech? Let's go ahead and answer these questions. A PAC can best be defined as what? Rising campaign costs have resulted in all of the following except what? Rising campaign costs have led to what? Campaign finance reform is. Then using the graph, who contributes more to campaign costs? So let's look at some cartoons. For each one, describe what's going on, identify any symbols, what's the artist's message, and explain what this cartoon tells us about the interest in political campaigns after the Citizens United decision. Political cartoon number 1, political cartoon number 2, political cartoon number 3, political cartoon number 4, political cartoon number 5. Thank you so much for watching.